become a pro? We'll see when we get back. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. This is the Ryobi PRC01CN, and it's their 18-volt 1 Plus platform cordless ratchet. Now, if you know Ryobi, you know they're found in a lot of DIY situations. However, you'll also find them in a lot of shops, as well as on a lot of job sites for that entry-level pro and really beyond, to tell you the truth. Typically, they're cheaper tools, still carry a decent warranty. You can find them about anywhere. So that's kind of the same idea with this cordless ratchet. Is it a pro level ratchet? No, absolutely not. There's other pro ratchets that are focused for that pro mechanic that have a lot more features, if you will, maybe a little tougher, maybe a little stronger. However, this still bridges that gap between that DIY and that pro, and it does it very well, and I'll tell you about that here in a moment. Now, the elephant in the room is this big battery. Now, before we dive into that, let's actually go over to the workbench. We'll kind of dissect this thing and dig in, and we'll talk about it. So if you're looking for a tool that's going to be that pro-focused cordless ratchet, this is probably not that tool. There are others on the market that are focused directly toward the pro. Now, I think Ryobi does a great job of bridging that gap between that DIY and the pro, and I'll talk about that here in a second, because one thing they're not going to waver on, at least anytime soon, I don't believe, is going away from the 18-volt 1 Plus platform. So this platform has, I think, more than 120 tools, and their claim to fame is that their oldest battery work with the newest tool, and the newest battery will work with the oldest tool. So the battery packs will always fit in every cordless tool they've ever made, and I don't see them running from that just yet. So when they do produce a tool like this ratchet that typically you've seen just in the pro market, now we see it in the DIY market, which again, they're one of just a couple that have done that. So kudos for that. But also they've done a couple of things to make it better, because let's just face it, the elephant in the room is this big battery here. That's a pretty big battery platform to be on a cordless ratchet. It's going to get in the way, right? Well, that is exactly right. And what they've done to mitigate that is to use this locking collar right here, where we can turn this head in 4 different positions. So every 90 degrees, we can turn this head on this Ryobi so that we can get into different areas to make that battery pack not be as big of an issue. I think that's a great way to handle that. Again, I'm not expecting Ryobi to come out and say, you know what, we're going to make a 12 volt and we're going to slim the battery pack down and so forth. That would just kind of sour the lemons, if you will, of the people that are already out there that know they have the 1 Plus platform, and kind of change the game on them a little bit. So kudos to Ryobi to, again, kind of working in the box they're playing in. Now, let me show you also where they didn't just punt once they did that, and that is the fact, as little as it may be, they've got 2 LED lights. So they've got an LED light on each side, so it doesn't matter. When you turn that head, it's not shining here, and then you turn the head over here, and the LED's still shining over here. It's going to shine on both locations. So again, you're going to be shining the light, the LED, on that fastener area. And then with those 2 there, even if you're in that, kind of sideways position, you're probably still going to broadcast some light up to there. But again, nice job on that Ryobi of not just punting and thinking, well, just leave it with one LED. So when you rotate that head, you still get some light on your fastener area. Paddle switch design, really it's just a plunger switch in there with a paddle lever that's pushing it. Still, I like that. I like that paddle switch idea on a ratchet, because you don't really have to, feel around to grab a trigger, especially if you're not looking at it. There's many times where you're kind of working blind, whether you're under a vehicle or reaching back in an engine bay, something like that. So again, I don't have to find that paddle switch or trigger. It's easily there. I can grab that with any of my fingers and be able to hit that. You also have a lockout here where you can easily lock out that paddle as well. Again, another way that Ryobi kind of realized the box they're in and utilized it. Maybe something little to you, but I'm telling you, I've actually used it on this tool since we've had it in the shop. And that's this little thing right here. So the ability to hold a 1/4 4-inch extension. So they looked and said, I don't know. I don't know if the engineers did this, but I'm assuming they looked and said, you know what? We got a lot of real estate right here because we got this big battery. Let's do something with it. So, hey, great idea. You've got a little, rubber collar in there, and it easily holds a little 3-inch, 1/4-inch extension. I leave it there. Why not? It's not in the way. It's not bothering anything. And many times I grab it if I need, extra length on a socket or something like that. It's right there. It's easily accessible. And again, it's not getting any more in the way than the battery already is. So does the battery get in the way sometimes? Yeah, absolutely. You've got a pretty big stick out there. But again, for what they had to play with, I think they've done a great job. 35 foot-pounds of force. You've heard me talk about, cordless ratchets. I could care less about foot-pounds on a cordless ratchet. It's not an impact wrench. As long as I can, use this to actually, apply pressure on my own, then I'm good with that. And as long as it's got enough torque to actually run the nut on or off, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more of a nut runner when I'm looking for a cordless ratchet. This is going to accept any of the 18-volt 1+ batteries, so there's no limitations as to what thickness. So you can run a 9 amp hour if you want to. I will tell you, on a tool like this, I cannot imagine that you would run the battery down even a 2 amp hour on a cordless ratchet. I would think you'd have to run this all day long to do that. So I like a slimmer pack on this. This is a brushless tool, as you can see here. You can see kind of the sparks fly in there. So this is not a brushless tool, but again, no need for it. There's not a lot of efficiency that is needed on a tool like this. Not a tremendous amount of power. Again, as long as it's going to be a nut runner, then I'm fine with that. Model number on this is a PRC01CN. Again, it's their Ryobi cordless ratchet. They have it in the 1/4-inch model. I like that because you know what? When you're using a smaller tool, especially on the DIY side, so anything say 9/16 or 14 millimeter and smaller, 1/4-inch is going to work really well, especially on those smaller 8 millimeter, 10 millimeter fasteners. That's where this tool is going to be really handy. That's probably the majority of your fasteners now under the hood of a car, or before you actually get in deep into suspension or deep into the internals of the engine. Typical direction lever here on a lot of ratchets, so you just turn it to change your direction there. It is recessed, so it's a little harder to get to, but at the same time, what that does is keep this from hitting against something and actually changing the direction on it. So, hey, $79 for this thing, so kind of hard to argue with that. Again, great job, Ryobi, on taking what you had to play with and actually creating some features out of it that is really going to bridge that gap into that. Definitely the DIY, great tool for DIY. Especially at the price range, and also I could easily see this in the beginners, the pro beginners, or in the hands of that entry-level pro. So after using it for quite a while, this is a nice ratchet. Don't have any qualms about it. It doesn't need to be a brushless motor. It doesn't need to be any stronger. For a 1/4-inch drive ratchet, it does quite well with whatever its 35 foot-pounds of force is. Again, as I mentioned, when I look at a cordless ratchet, I'm not looking for an impact wrench. I want a nut runner. I want it to run nuts on and off, run bolts in and out, run fasteners in and out. I don't need it to have a lot of torque. I do need it to hold up if I'm putting a little brute force against it, or I'm breaking that fastener free, or giving it its final tightening. I need it to be able to handle that manually. There was literally hardly any flex in this, and in all honesty, quite a bit less flex than I've seen in other pro-focused cordless ratchets as well. The paddle switch is a little, I won't say chintzy. You can find it very easily, but it's got kind of a rough edge on it, not too polished, if you will. But other than that, I think Ryobi's done a great job. Again, as I talked about the features of the rotating head, I think they did a great job of realizing, hey, we've got a big battery. What do we do to change that up so it's not such an intrusive piece of the tool? And I think they did that quite well by having those 4 different positions where you can rotate this head and get it where you want it. And again, also kudos to them for putting 2 LEDs on there as well. At $79, that's hard to beat. It really is, especially if you're already on the Ryobi platform. That is an easy buy at $79, especially when you get a 3-year warranty on it. Check them out at your Home Depot. Also keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And hey, if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button and that bell notification. That's going to let you know when new videos are available. Have a great day and go out and do something nice for someone.